Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about constants. And constants are variables whose value cannot change throughout the entire program. And I am sure the next logical question that comes into your mind is, if Rust variables are immutable by default, why do we need another construct for creating constants? And I'm going to answer that question very soon. But before then, let me show you how to create constant. Okay, so we usually assume that constants are going to be used across the program or in many places in the program, so it is okay to declare it in the main function, but just to demonstrate that you can also declare things outside the main function and find it in other scopes, I'm going to declare it outside the main function. So you create a constant by saying const, and I'm going to use the Avogadro's constant. So Avogadro's constant, and I'm going to specify that I want it to be an F32, and the value is 6.0221408 times 10 to the power 23. See how we use the E to represent times 10. So the exponent to the power 23. And I'm going to finish it here. This is a linter. He's saying it's never used. So let's just come down here and call upon our good old friend Avogadro, and let's print out the constant Avogadro. So this is also valid, but I'm going to put it here. Otherwise I have to use key value pairs, and I didn't want to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and run, and you can see that it compiles, and we have Avogadro, and it is 6.022 times 10 to the power 23. Now I'm going to answer why we need constant and how they are different from regular variables, even though you know that regular variables are immutable by default. Now the difference between constant and variables is that, number one, for a constant you must always specify an explicit data type, unlike regular variables where the compiler is able to infer the data type. It doesn't do so for us in constant. So I'm going to remove this annotation, and already we have an error. Let me just give a nice line for clarity. So it says missing type for const item. Let's try to compile this program, and unsurprisingly the compiler is also going to tell us the same thing. So it says help provide a type for the item Avogadro. So the compiler assumes that it is F64, but it is still not going to use its assumption. It wants you to specify an explicit data type. And so I can come here and make this an F32 because the value is small enough to fit into an F32, and now our program is going to run correctly. Now the next thing that distinguishes constant from regular variables is that with constant they replace the text identifier where they are used at compile time. Okay, so if this was a variable, what's going to happen is, yes, at compile time it is not going to evaluate the value. It's going to wherever the variable is used, we are going to access the value of that variable from memory, and our program is going to run as designed. But for constant, what's going to happen is that during compilation, the compiler is going to substitute the identifier with the value. So if I use Avogadro in several places, okay, let's say I multiply Avogadro by 3 and I store that in answer. So I say let answer is equal to 3 times Avogadro, and then I come here, cannot multiply F32 to integer. Okay, fine, we'll talk about this, but let me change this to 3.0, and I come here and I'm going to print answer just for an example. So I'm going to print answer here, answer here, and I'm going to substitute this over here. And if we run this program, it will run as expected, But what I want you to get is that during compilation, the compiler is actually going to substitute 6.02214. I mean, the value of Avogadro is going to be substituted here. So as far as the compilation process is concerned, what the compiler will see is this. And over here, it will also see this. So the constant is actually going to replace everywhere its identifier is used at compile time. So let me undo these, and our program returns back to where it was. So this is it about constant. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.